Michael Torres had a choice: buy a new guitar strap for $15 or buy food for the week. 38 years old, blind since birth, living on disability benefits that covered rent but not much else, Michael chose food. He'd reinforce the old strap with safety pins, make it last another month. It lasted 3 hours. Michael was midway through Angie in King's Cross Station, eyes closed behind dark glasses, not because he was feeling the music, but because there was nothing to open them to, when he felt the strap give way. The guitar fell, the impact echoed, and Michael's world, already dark, got darker. He couldn't see where his guitar landed, couldn't see where his white cane had fallen. Couldn't see the commuters backing away, some embarrassed, some sympathetic, none helping. Michael was on the ground, running his hands over cold concrete, trying to find the pieces of his shattered livelihood, when Keith Richards walked over. Keith had heard Angie from across the station. His song, his heartbreak from 1973, but played with a tenderness Keith had never managed himself. Keith had come closer to listen, arrived just in time to see the strap break, the guitar fall, the blind musician's world collapse. And what Keith did about the broken guitar, the broken strap, and the $15 Michael couldn't afford became the reason a year later Michael Torres was playing Angie at Royal Albert Hall with Keith Richards standing in the wings, making sure he never fell again. It was Thursday afternoon in November 1989, and King's Cross Underground Station was packed with the usual chaos of one of London's busiest transport hubs. Thousands of commuters flowing through, most with headphones, most in a hurry, most seeing nothing but their own destinations. Michael Torres sat in his regular spot near the entrance to the Northern Line platforms, back against the tiled wall, his battered acoustic guitar across his lap. He'd been there since 11 that morning. It was now 2 in the afternoon. 3 hours. He'd made 23, enough for tomorrow's groceries if he was careful. Michael was 38 years old and had been blind since birth. A genetic condition called Leber congenital amaurosis had taken his sight before his brain learned to process visual information. Michael had never seen light, color, or shape. His world was entirely sound, touch, smell, and memory of spaces learned by navigation. The guitar was everything to Michael. It was his voice, his income, his connection to a world he couldn't see but could make beautiful through sound. He'd taught himself to play at 16, learning by touch and sound, developing an ability to hear harmonies and melodies with a clarity that sighted musicians envied. The guitar strap was the problem. It was old leather, cracked and worn, held together in 2 places with safety pins because the leather had torn completely through. Michael knew it was dying. He'd known for months. Every time he played, he could feel the stress on those safety pins, feel the leather stretching further. Last week he'd gone to a music shop, felt the new straps they had, asked the price, £15. He'd had exactly £15 in his pocket that day. He'd also had an empty refrigerator at home and 3 days until his next disability payment. Michael had chosen food, came home, found his old sewing kit by touch, and reinforced the strap with 3 more safety pins. It would last, he'd told himself. It had to last. Thursday afternoon, Michael was playing Angie because it was the song that made people stop. Something about the melody, the gentleness of it, cut through the underground chaos and made commuters pause. And when they paused, they sometimes put coins in his guitar case. Michael played it differently from the original. Slower, more delicate, with finger-picking patterns that emphasized the song's melancholy. He couldn't see the commuters who stopped to listen, but he could hear them. Could hear their footsteps slow, hear them shift their bags to free a hand for their wallet, hear the coins drop into his case. He was midway through the second chorus, fingers moving across the fretboard in patterns he knew by muscle memory when he felt it. The left side of the strap, the side he'd reinforced most recently, gave way. Not gradually. Suddenly, the safety pins popped free and the leather tore. The guitar's weight shifted wrong. Michael tried to catch it, grabbing with his right hand while his left still held the neck. But when you can't see where something is falling, you can only grab where you think it should be. He was wrong by 6 inches. The guitar hit the concrete platform with a sound that made everyone within 20 feet wince. The impact echoed through the tube station. Michael heard strings snap, heard wood crack, heard his livelihood break. His first instinct wasn't the guitar, it was his white cane. He'd propped it against the wall beside him. When he'd lunged for the falling guitar, he'd knocked it over. Now he couldn't feel it, couldn't find it. And without his cane, Michael was completely lost even in a space he knew well. He dropped to his knees, hands frantically searching the cold concrete, found his guitar case, coins scattered, found a discarded coffee cup. Found someone's dropped newspaper. Couldn't find his cane. Couldn't find his guitar. "Excuse me," he called out to the general space around him, voice shaking. "My cane. It's white. It's got a red tip. Did anyone see where it went?" Silence. The flow of commuters continued around him like water around a rock. Some had seen what happened. Some felt bad. None stopped to help. This was London King's Cross Station, Thursday afternoon. Everyone had somewhere to be. Michael's hands were shaking now, sweeping in wider circles, trying to find anything familiar. His world had always been dark, but it had never felt this dark, this helpless. Then someone crouched down beside him. Michael heard the knee joints crack, heard fabric rustle, felt a presence close to his right side. "Stop," a voice said, male, older, with an accent that was London, but also something else. "I'll find them. Just tell me what you need." "My cane," Michael said, hating how desperate his voice sounded. "White stick with a red rubber tip. And my guitar. It fell. I don't know how bad." "I've got your cane," the voice said. Michael felt it pressed gently into his hand. Relief flooded through him as his fingers closed around the familiar grip. "And your guitar is right here. It's damaged, but let's get you sitting down first, yeah?" The man's hand took Michael's elbow, guided him back to the wall, helped him sit. Michael could tell from the movements that this person knew how to help a blind person, not grabbing, not pulling, just offering stable support and clear direction. "Thank you," Michael said. "My guitar, how bad is it?" Neck's cracked. Not broken clean through, but cracked. 3 strings snapped. Body's got a dent, but the structure's okay. Could be worse. Could be better. "It's yours, sir." The man paused. That strap was held together with safety pins. "I know," Michael said quietly. "Couldn't afford a new one." "How much is a new strap?" £15. "And you chose food instead." It wasn't a question. Michael nodded anyway. "Yeah." The man was quiet for a moment. Michael heard him pick up the broken guitar, heard him examining it, turning it, checking the damage. "I'm Keith, by the way," the man said. "Hey, Keith Richards." Michael's hands, which had been shaking, went completely still. He knew that name. Everyone knew that name. "The Keith Richards? Rolling Stones' Keith Richards?" "That's the one." A pause. "I heard you playing Angie." "That's my song. Or it was. But you play it better than I ever did." Michael couldn't process this. Keith Richards. The Keith Richards had heard him play, had come over when his strap broke, was sitting on the King's Cross platform talking to him. "I doubt that," Michael finally managed. I play what I hear, what I feel." "And serio. And what do you feel when you play it?" Michael thought about that. Loneliness, trying to hold on to something that's already gone. Knowing you have to let go but not wanting to. "That's what I hear in the melody." Keith was quiet for a long moment. "That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it was when I wrote it. But I've never heard anyone play it like you just did. Like they understood that in their bones." "Music is all I've got," Michael said simply. "I can't see the world, but I can hear it. And when I play, I can make other people hear what I hear, feel what I feel." "How long have you been playing?" 22 years. Taught myself. Started when I was 16. "Taught yourself?" Keith sounded impressed. That's remarkable. Most people need to see what they're doing. I just needed to feel it and hear it. The guitar tells you what it wants if you listen." Keith stood up. Michael heard him, heard fabric rustling, heard something being set down. Then Keith said, "Right, here's what's going to happen. First, we're getting you to a guitar repair shop I know. It's 10 minutes from here. They'll fix the neck, restring it, get you a proper strap that won't break. All of that is happening today. I can't afford. I'm paying." Not up for discussion. Keith's voice was firm but kind. "Second, you're going to give me your phone number, assuming you have a phone. And tomorrow, you and I are going to talk about you playing somewhere better than a tube station." "It is had un Santa Libera." Michael's throat tight. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I've been playing guitar for 40 years. I've played on the biggest stages in the world, and I've never heard Angie played the way you just played it. That's why." Keith paused. "And because choosing between a guitar strap and food is a choice nobody should have to make." Keith helped Michael stand, collected his scattered coins, packed up his guitar case. Then Keith did something Michael hadn't expected. He took Michael's arm properly, the way you're supposed to guide a blind person, and said, "Right, guitar shop is this way. Tell me if I'm going too fast." They walked through King's Cross Station together, Keith Richards and a blind street musician, Keith carrying the broken guitar like it was precious. People stared. Some recognized Keith. Most were too busy to notice. The guitar shop was called Vintage Sounds, tucked down a side street near King's Cross. Keith knew the owner, a man named Robert who'd been repairing guitars for 30 years. "Rob," Keith said, walking in with Michael, "this is Michael Torres. His guitar neck is cracked, he needs 3 new strings, and he needs your strongest guitar strap. Today, I'm paying." Robert didn't ask questions. He looked at the guitar, looked at Michael's dark glasses and white cane, looked at Keith, and said, "Give me 2 hours. I'll make it perfect." And now, the well were. Yes. While they waited, Keith took Michael to a cafe next door, ordered them both tea and sandwiches. They sat by the window, not that Michael could see it, and talked about music. Keith wanted to know everything. How Michael learned, what he heard in different songs, how he memorized complex finger-picking patterns without being able to see his hands or sheet music. "It's all in my head," Michael explained. "I hear a song, I break it down in my mind, I figure out where each note lives on the fretboard, and I practice until my fingers remember. My hands can see better than most people's eyes." "Do you write your own music?" "Sometimes, when I can't sleep. I don't write it down, can't read music notation anyway. I just play it until I remember it." "Play something for me," Keith said. "Something you wrote." There was an old guitar hanging on the cafe wall, more decoration than instrument. Keith asked the owner if Michael could borrow it. The owner, recognizing Keith Richards, immediately said yes. Michael took the guitar, felt it, tuned it by ear, and played something he'd written 3 years ago. A melody that sounded like memory, like trying to remember a face you'd never seen, like longing for something you couldn't name. When he finished, Keith was quiet. Then, "That's beautiful. Michael, that needs to be recorded. That needs to be heard. It's just something I play for myself." "It shouldn't be. That's the kind of music that reminds people why music matters." 2 hours later, Robert had fixed the guitar. The neck was reinforced, restrung, the strap was new leather, double-stitched, built to last years. Michael ran his hands over it, feeling the repairs, the solid strap connectors. "It's perfect," he said quietly. Keith paid Robert, refused to tell Michael how much it cost, and walked Michael back to King's Cross. But not to the tube platform, to the street entrance. "You're not playing in the underground anymore," Keith said. "Tomorrow I'm making some calls. There's a venue in Camden that does acoustic nights. Small, intimate, perfect for what you do. They're going to give you a slot. Paid. Actual money, not coins in a case." Michael couldn't speak. "And next month," Keith continued with genuine excitement, "I'm doing a small charity show at Royal Albert Hall. I want you to open, play 3 songs, including that one you just played in the cafe. And Angie, the way you play it. Deal?" Yes. Deal." A year later, Michael Torres was a regular performer at acoustic venues across London. He'd recorded an album of original compositions and covers. He still played Angie, and he still played it better than Keith. And when people asked Michael how he went from tube stations to concert halls, Michael always told the same story. The story of a 15 guitar strap and the truly memorable day Keith Richards proved that sometimes the best thing you can do for an artist isn't give them money, it's give them a stage. If this powerful story about Michael Torres, Keith Richards, and seeing with your hands instead of your eyes moved you deeply, remember that the most beautiful music often comes from the darkest places, played by people who refuse to let anything stop them from creating light.